Lining is one of the most difficult things to master when it comes to tattooing. Notice how I said master. Sure, we may get the concept early on, we may even be able to lay down really good lines early on. However, mastering the art of lining is a world of its own. That takes true time. Being able to lay down consistent lines that neighbor one another well over and over and over again, a multitude of different types of skin, never blowing out, you get the idea. That right there takes time and experience. There's no way around the progress but through it. In today's time, there are a multitude of resources that we can utilize to help aid and assist our development, such as my tattoo workbooks that you see right here. This one's called the Fundamental Tattoo Handbook that lays out a bunch of useful tattoo information from how to deal with difficult clients all the way down to sterilization, applying tattoos. Right here you can see the table of contents is actually very, very vast. There is a lot of stuff here to go over, and each section I go over in depth with fun illustrative images to really help get my points across. As you can see, all the way through from different types of machines, different buzzing, we get different quizzes, and even at the end of the book we have the ability to practice different exercises. There's resources, PDF downloads as well, and you can see everything that we pick up and learn within the book we can practice right here in the book at the end after we're done picking all of it up and reading through. This book is now available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, and it's called the Fundamental Tattoo Handbook. There are also a multitude of other tattoo workbooks that are designed to help assist our technical application, like the Tattoo Practice Companion, which has a multitude of exercises from beginner to advanced, as you can see. So depending on what you're wanting to practice would determine what book would best fit you, or if not all of them. They all serve their purpose. We have dot work, lining, we have shading practices, we have, as you can see right here, textures, we have packing as well. A whole bunch of fun stuff here we can practice right into the book, anytime, any place, anywhere. You can see here, this is Stencil Focus Statues Edition. This is designed to help us step out of our comfort zone and practice more realistic styles, as well as get used to tattooing or practicing over a sort of carbon purple. You can see here, this is an exercise that I did. This is one of my first attempts at actually trying to do designs that are dominantly shading and not lining, and I think that I did all right. Definitely learned a lot, can do a lot better as we go on, but overall I feel like this attempt right here came out really clean. You can see that that's the purpose of it. We can practice. If there's anywhere to make a mistake, it would definitely be within these handbooks right here, these tattoo workbooks, as we could practice again anytime, anywhere, any place, and we could practice as much as we need. And I did this with a tattoo machine as well, with a ballpoint cartridge. So I would simply use a ballpoint cartridge and any tattoo machine of my choice to go ahead and get my practice in, optimizing my practice. You can see there are a multitude of different books here. This is the Tattoo Journal Volume 2. There's 1, 2, and 3 from beginner lining all the way up to advanced, and there's books dedicated to shading as well. So I have a book for pretty much most styles that we would want to practice, and more to come that I am developing. But you can see that these are ready for you and available today. They're going to be in the description below or in the pinned comments, so that way you can check out these books on your end. Head on over to Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, type in Daniel Yuck, and you'll see an assortment of these workbooks pop right on up. When it comes to clean lines, there are a multitude of variables that we have to consider to make and create clean lines. There is sort of a standard when it comes to viewing a tattoo that's considered good and not. What I would consider good are clean, solid, consistent, saturated lines that neighbor one another well. What I would consider not good are lines that are truly inconsistent. You have all the same line weights that were done with the same needle, but they all look like they were done with different sizes. Maybe some lines are lighter versus others. You get the idea. So they are really night and day. Whenever anyone views a tattoo, we expect clean, solid, consistent, saturated consistency throughout the entire tattoo. And that is the mark that we often miss and just don't even think about when we first start off tattooing. Taking it from the top, one of my main considerations are going to be the needle size that I use and the machine that I'm going to be applying the tattoo with. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using my Muso Toku Mercury M1 tattoo machine. I'll be using a Rain standard 7-round shader to apply this design here and to get my points across. I'm going to be using Phantom Tattoo gloves, Simple Petroleum Jelly, Dynamic Black to apply this tattoo. This is a little circle of real skin, fake skin that I cut out from a sheet. This is a Sinra silicone hand, and I'm going to be using simple Scotch shop wipes to keep my fake skin clean. I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate links and other affiliate links for you in the description to the gear featured in this video in case you want to match it up on your end. Now that I've got my needle picked and my machine, I'm ready to begin technically applying it. The reason I chose this needle is because I feel like it's very close to the line weight that the client agreed upon, which is this design right here, which is more of a traditional design. For that, I'm going to use a 7-round shader because a 7-round shader is going to give me a bolder line, not too heavy, but bold enough to match this exact stencil. The way that I look at it is if the client came in with this specific design, then they're going to expect the lines to be of that line weight. Why would they be thinner? Does that make sense? Why would they be thicker? So we're going to want to pay attention to that. Once we do all of that and align the machine, needle, and everything, we're ready to begin the actual technical process. When it comes to applying a tattoo, multiple variables are at play. Hand speed, voltage, depth, posture, position, you get the idea. And direction. Direction is also a big one, as well as angle. These are things that we just, I know for a fact when I first started, let me speak for myself. When I first started, these are variables that I just didn't even consider because there was just too many moving components for me to even know better. So let me go ahead and kind of show you these components here real time and when they come into the process. So right now, I have to identify my point A and point B. For that is going to be right here. I'm going to start right here in this area and bring this jaw down this way. So my A point's right here and my B point. So I've acknowledged where I'm going to start, where I'm going to end. Now begins the posture and position. How am I going to position myself and posturize myself so that way I can get good needle angle and that way I can feel comfortable enough to commit to the line. So I'm still, getting comfortable and filling out the design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at my A point and then bring it down to my B point like so, with a small taper in. And then now I'm focusing on needle angle, hand speed to voltage, and my comfortability overall. I'm going to go ahead and taper out right here because I felt super uncomfortable there. And you can see I have my first align. Now you can kind of see how quickly these moving components silently stack to create the final outcome. That is what we have to be careful for. We really have to be careful with all of those, silent variables and actually know about them in order to be able to fundamentally conduct ourselves in a manner that's going to yield clean, solid, consistent, saturated results each and every single time we lay down a line, shading, packing, whatever it may be. If you're just starting out, this is going to be more of a full-length video, so a lot of this may go over your head, and if you feel kind of lost, do not get overwhelmed. That's actually a part of the learning process. This is definitely not easy at the beginning, but once we start getting the concepts, it does become easier. All of these variables that I'm showing you here will make sense over time. So allow me to kind of continue here. So I'm going to identify my point A and my point B, which is going to be right here in this bone, and then I'm going to posturize and position myself in a manner that allows me to get my good needle angle here. So all of those variables, there's like 4 or 5 already moving variables that I'm thinking about, and then I can go ahead and kind of commit to this area and begin building this bone side. So you can see, I'm going to go ahead and commit to the line. Hand speed voltage is what I'm considering. My needle angle. I'm giving my needle enough time to deposit the ink in a clean manner using all 7 needles. That's very, very important. I'm going to go until I feel comfortable, and I'm going to taper out. Now, when it comes to wobbling, that is something that we're going to be prone to earlier on and maybe even some time to come. That is going to be managed just by trial, error, and progress and practice. Once you start aligning these variables, you'll be able to get more comfortable. Being comfortable and prioritizing the variables is what's going to yield cleaner results. So allow me to demonstrate here. So I'm going to go ahead and get more comfortable. I'm going to taper in. And you can see over here is going to get a little bit more difficult because the skin's going to bounce, which is a great obstacle to begin to practice overcoming here because skin is going to do that a lot. I'm going to keep it steady. Nothing needs to change. Taper out because I felt uncomfortable. And you can see now I have clean, consistent lines, and all of these lines that I just applied are neighboring one another well. Each of these lines follow the same formula format of all the variables, just simply being aware of each and every move that I do. Every choice I make is calculated, it has practical reasoning, and it contributes to my overall workflow. Same concept over here, and all of these fundamentals, no matter how complex, how detailed the design, this is pretty much the exact same routine that we'd be using on every single tattoo. The only thing that changes, needle weight, design, voltage, you get the idea. By the way, my voltage is 6 volts even. That's what I feel comfortable with this specific machine. Depending on your stroke would determine how much voltage or how little you need. Now, from here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of continue. I'm going to posturize myself after I've identified my point A to B. And again, I go over all of this in the Fundamental Tattoo Handbook. And then from here, I'm going to make sure that I have a good stretch on the skin, which is a part of my comfortability process. I always taper into the lines like this, so that way I don't just drive and then go, because that's going to create bulbs at every single one of these points where the lines connect. So again, you don't want to just bulb it down. You want to taper in very, very lightly, like so. Let your needle catch. It doesn't need to be a massive taper, it's just a micro taper. And then here is going to get a little bit difficult because the skin's going to bounce, because you can see how it's close to the edge. I'm just going to kind of follow the same routine by giving the needle enough time to make its rounds. to be able to even deposit the ink cleanly. Let me go ahead and wipe away, see if we got true results. And you can see in wiping away, the lines stay consistent and neighboring one another well. You can see that I'm capturing the 7-round shader integrity true each and every time I deposit the ink. That's exactly what we want to go for. So all of these moving variables need to be there in order for us to yield clean, solid, consistent, saturated results. If our hand speed or voltage is out of line, we're not going to get consistent, solid, saturated lines. If we're not comfortable, then we're more prone to wonky lines. If we don't know where we're going, then we're more prone to being stressed out. You get the idea. So every single variable needs to be accounted for. So you can see, I'm going to do this again. Identify my A position to B. Here's my A point. I'm going to taper in like so. Commit to the line. I can feel my needles in the skin now, and I'm going to give it enough time to make it to round so that way I can cleanly deposit the ink in a clean, solid, consistent, saturated manner. And a taper out right there. Dab away, and it reflects the lines next to it. This is exactly what I want each and every time I deposit the line. That is the concept. It really doesn't change, so I can do this entire tattoo and kind of just figure out ways to say this a million different ways, but it all means the same thing. We have to have a practical, fundamental workflow that we follow to be able to accomplish clean, solid, consistent, saturated results. That's the only way around wonky, inconsistent lines. We have to go through the progress. I'm sorry, there's no way around it. That's the way through it. We have to figure out the motions. So I encourage you, create the inconsistent lines. Use the needles that you're afraid of. Don't start with a smaller needle, start with a larger round shader. Things like that. So for example, here's another demonstration. You can see how all of the fundamentals do not change. They stay aligned. I'm working at a very peaceful workflow. I'm using just the very tip of the needle so that way I don't damage the skin. And my patience combined with the needle really does the work. When we start combining these variables and they begin to work in unison, we begin to yield predictable, really clean results that the customer would want. That is the idea behind it. We have multiple variables that we need to pay attention to. We need to pay attention to where we are starting and ending, our posture, position, hand speed to voltage, needle angle. We have to let our needle catch and feel for that, and then we have to let it make enough rounds and cycle to deposit the ink in a clean, solid, consistent, saturated manner that corresponds to the needle size that we chose. And this is all going to happen in like a few seconds, back to back to back. A, B, position, angle, hand speed, voltage, all of it's done. Believe it or not, even in these little lines, all of these variables are simultaneously firing and being accounted for each and every single line. It really doesn't matter how long the line weight of the line, how small it is, it's going to be applied the exact same way. This is how I maintain that consistency throughout each and every single tattoo that I apply. And this right here has been, I guess, one of the main fixes for wonky lines for me. Kind of just learning and going through the motions of what it takes to actually deposit a clean line, and then eventually we'll wake up and everything will begin to click. It's just how it works. There we go. Let me wipe away to make sure the lines are neighboring one another well, in which they are. And this process would be repeated over and over and over. I can almost guarantee that once we start taking on these variables and aligning all of these fundamentals, that we should see almost immediate improvement in our work. Some may see it more quicker over others, but the idea isn't to be fast. The idea is to fully understand what we are doing and why, so that way every choice we make is calculated and predictable. That's the idea. That's where we want to get. So to close out this video and conclude, let me go ahead and do one more line here following this format. So here's my A point, and then we're going to make it down here as cleanly as we can. I'm not going for perfection, but I am focused on following these fundamental rules so that way my workflow is established and the habits that I'm building are translatable and I can take them with me to human skin. You can see I'm giving the needle enough time to do its job here. And I feel slightly uncomfortable, but I feel like I can make it just like that. Now, I could have done better in this portion and not have done that all in one go, but this is a great example as to why we shouldn't push past our limits. Allow me to show you here. You can see that if I would have just tapered out right here and went back, this line would have been more complete. Now, that's not a line that I'm happy with. So from here, what I would do is go back to the area that I'm not happy with, repeat the process, A to B, posture, position. This time I have to make sure I'm absolutely comfortable to apply this area, and I'm done with it indefinitely. I don't like to go over areas more than twice if I don't have to. I don't really see a reason why I have to hit an area 3 times, especially with lining. But you can see now that I'm done, because I prioritize my posture, my position, my comfortability that second time around, I was able to fully commit the entire rest of the way that I didn't like before. That's the idea. It really is a gradual process of decision making and being able to determine what's best for you for any given tattoo that should come your way. Now, that'll be it to conclude this video. I hope some of these tips can really help you get cleaner lines to avoid any sort of wonky messes that you may be experiencing. If you're just starting out, know that's a part of the process. And again, there's no way around it but through it. Be sure to check out some of my tattooing workbooks. I'll leave links in the description below or in the pinned comment for you to check out what was featured in this video. If you have any questions at all, I highly encourage you to drop a comment below. I'll do my absolute best to assist in the best possible direction. With that being said, if you found this video helpful, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel, as I'll be bringing more videos like this for you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your support. I hope you have a great day.